What do Lord of the Rings, Elden Ring, and One Piece all have in common? Well, they are some of the largest, best selling stories in their categories, and they're amazing. This is because of world building. The significant development of world building is what allows each of these stories to remain engaging for such a sustained amount of time. Every facet of each of these stories allows for dozens of smaller stories inside each and every crevice of the world, and every event has a tangible impact. Just think about the number of spin-offs each of these series has through novels, movies, and DLCs, all branching off and expanding from the existing world. In this video, I'm going to break down and compare all three of these fictional universes through how they construct their world, because world building can make or break any fictional story. But what actually is world building? Well, to put it simply, it is the creative process of constructing detailed and believable fictional worlds for stories. Not just the setting, but the entire world or universe the story is set in. The earliest examples of world building are through ancient mythology and religion, such as Egyptian and Greek legends dating back millennia. Eventually, however, world building evolved from making sense of the real world into creating entirely new fictional worlds. Middle-earth, the world created by J.R.R. Tolkien in 1954 for The Lord of the Rings, was extremely influential in fantasy world building. It's genuinely insane how deep and fleshed out the world is. I mean, just look at this map. Frodo's entire journey from the Shire all the way down through to Mordor is all completely cohesive and possible within the actual world of Middle-earth. On top of this, of course, the two elven languages, Sindarin and Quenya, are complete fictional languages that Tolkien created solely for the integrity of his world, although he did start inventing one of them while he was still in college. He managed to do this through his unique fascination and study of linguistics. In fact, when he was writing Lord of the Rings, he actually started with the construction and mapping of Middle-earth before building the characters. Another thing Tolkien does purposefully is leaving things unexplained. With a magical world so large, it would be impossible to explain every single event or character, which is why certain aspects are left unexplained to add mystery, such as large events of the world still being undefined. These methods of beginning with the construction of the world before the story is what allowed Middle-earth to be so vast as well as rich in history and storytelling. However, world building is very different in video games. Elden Ring uses the typical format of most open world games to tell its main story, whilst having larger parts of the lore and exploration of the world through item descriptions instead. Notably, Hidetaka Miyazaki wasn't the only one who wrote Elden Ring. He also had help from George R. Martin, who has his own amazing world in the Song of Ice and Fire series. When you're first put into the lands between in Elden Ring, you begin at Limgrave before exploring outward in any direction you want, allowing you to progress through small enemies up to eventually fighting gods. Because it's an open world game, it lets the player explore the world at their own pace. Elden Ring makes the player feel small and makes the world feel massive, often by showing future areas long before the player actually arrives there. This creates depth in the world as the player feels like the space actually exists in this world, as opposed to games where areas simply feel blocked off or empty. Similarly to Lord of the Rings, Elden Ring doesn't put you at the beginning of the world. It puts you in the middle of it. The Elden Ring has shattered, civilizations have been ruined, and the demigods are all past their primes. By exploring the world, you can see all of this and slowly uncover the ancient history of the lands between and the multitude of individual subplots, all branching off but still simultaneously connected. Moving over to anime, one show in particular stands out: One Piece. By far the longest story out of the three, it spans over 1,150 episodes based on the manga created by Ichiro Oda. The world of One Piece itself is insanely massive, being over 10 times the size of Earth, and is split vertically through the Red Line and horizontally through the Grand Line. What makes the world stand out from other long-running shonen is how large events have ripple effects throughout the world. For example, when Whitebeard dies, this is a huge deal for everyone as he is a Yonko. After his death, Blackbeard takes over his spot as Yonko and gains his devil fruit, while the remaining Whitebeard pirates try to get revenge. Indirectly, because of the war, Sengoku resigns from Fleet Admiral, leading to Akainu and Aokiji fighting over his spot. This one large event had such a monumental impact on the rest of the world, as if it were a real war. Another method Oda uses is the return of characters literally hundreds of chapters later, such as Hachan, who appears in the Arlong Park arc and then reappears in Subodhi Archipelago 421 chapters later. This, along with the rich history of different islands and brutal politics, is what makes the world building of One Piece so great. So what should you take away from this video? Well, each of these stories start in the middle of the world's timeline, not the beginning or the end. Progress the story without the main character being there. Focus on building complex history and politics. The worlds that last the longest hold a huge amount of depth. They're built to change, react, and outgrow the story inside of them. Whether you're writing, designing, or just paying attention as a fan, once you understand this, you start seeing fiction differently. Thanks for watching, and please let me know which fictional world you like the best, including any that I left out.